I just wanted to talk about one of my favorite books that I read in 2024. It's not a particularly good book, I guess you would say. Like, it's not that deep or has like a meaning or a good social message or anything like that, but it's just one of the favorite books I read this year, and I just wanted to talk about it because I haven't seen a lot of discussion about it, and I don't really have anybody to talk to about this book. Because I mean, to be honest, it's because of its genre. Like, it's not really a book you can talk to a lot of people about, especially strangers. And I might have some friends that like this book, but they still haven't read it. So yeah, guess that leaves me with nobody but the air to talk to. So the book is called Warlock, and it's written by Daniel Kensington. It released this year, back in September, towards the end of September, I think. And it's what you'd call a harem fantasy novel. The book is spicy. Like, it has spice in it, and that is a large part of the book, and it's gonna be a large part of the next books coming out, because it's a large part of this genre in particular. Now, to give some context, I am a fan of harem anime. Like, it's one of my favorite genres out there, even though I think most of the time it's done very poorly. Like, it's not really fun to watch or engaging. It's most of the times it's pretty clear there's one main girl, and that is always annoying, because why would you make a harem if there's one main girl who's obviously going to win and who obviously gets all the author's favorite treatment? He always gives her the best scenes, the most emotional moments, the most development. I think it's a huge waste of time. And even in the series that do pull off the harem part well, one of like my biggest complaints is that it usually only culminates in like hand holding or kissing or something. It doesn't really go deeper than that, which is, I guess, a broader problem in manga, but that's not really what I want to talk about here. I just wanted to say that because of the spice this book contains, that's not gonna be a problem with this book. I have no script. I'm kind of just talking randomly. So what is this book even about? So basically, our main character, Noah Ash, is an orphan who has just turned 18. On his 18th birthday, he is fucking kicked out of the orphanage or foster care home. I have no idea what you call it. He's kicked out. They don't want him no more because they get no more money for taking care of him. So he's freshly out on the street. No job, no home, no address, and the $100 in his pockets. Shit. In today's world, I have no idea what he could buy, what he could even afford with those $100. Maybe it's food for one day, who knows. But he is in quite a predicament, to be honest, with nothing to his name. Literally, he goes out trying to make something of himself, get a job, get a residence, or a place to stay, a place to sleep. He doesn't want to be homeless, and this doesn't turn out well. It goes wrong immediately. He almost gets robbed and ends up having to fight the person who was trying to take his stuff, his backpack or whatever he had with him. Now, during the kerfuffle, I guess, he screams, and because of like overexertion of screaming and the situation in general, he passes out. Now, when he wakes up, he finds himself inside an unfamiliar home. Now, I think you know where this is going, but you're kind of wrong, to be honest, because I thought I knew where it was going, but it didn't go in that direction. He wakes up in an unfamiliar house, and the person who took care of him is a late 20s, early 30s witch called Mel. Now, the age is something that Noah thinks of, and she basically explains to him that he passed out because he used magic, and Noah is a warlock, basically a male witch. She also explains to him that they are quite rare, and what makes him even more rare is that he is still unmarked, meaning that none of the witch families or other witches have taken him for themselves, or yeah. And because he is unmarked and is a warlock, which as I said earlier are quite rare. He is targeted, he is going to be a prime target for the witches in the witch world. Of course, Noah is very confused, doesn't believe it at first until he sees Mel do magic. And then when he does finally grasp that he is actually a warlock and that what Mel said is actually true, he is going to be in danger. When everything finally starts making sense to him, that's basically when the story picks up, because from there on the plan is for, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, the warlocks in this world, they are part of like a coven, they call it, with 13 other witches, right? So what basically marked warlocks do is they get marked by a witch, and they are then a part of a coven of 13 other witches, and they harvest the witches' mana. And the way harvesting works is the same way mana transfer works in Fate, so if you know, you know. So basically, because he still is unmarked, he is going to, every witch will want him, you know. I don't want to give too many spoilers, so yeah, that's basically it. And the only way for him to stay safe is for him to find 13 other witches and basically enter a coven with them, where he is going to be strong enough to protect himself from, yeah, everybody who wants his schmeat, for lack of a better word. And to find these 13 other witches, the plan that they all agree to is for Noah to start attending the Witches University. Woohoo! So this is basically like, you know, a university type story or academy. Now, to be honest with you, this story isn't like anything. I like the premise, but like, you know, it's an academy story. It's nothing like revolutionary or something like that. Like, I feel like a lot of these harem stories are just like set in like an academy or university, at least the Western ones, the ones I've read. But even with this premise, I still think the story stands out because of good character work. Like, to be honest, when you go into the story, you don't have like high expectations for character work. That's for characters in general. That's not something you really look for in this type of story. But I was honestly pretty fucking surprised. Like the characters, they are, like, as I said at the beginning, they're not like very deep or anything like that. Like, that's not the type of story this is. But I do think the characters are well developed. They all have unique personalities, goals. Like, I liked a lot of them. Another thing I can say is a lot of the characters were like actually kind of funny, which is also like, for me it's surprising, because most of the time, like, I've read 2 other stories in this genre, I guess, and I mean in both of them, like the comedy just didn't hit. Like, I found it unfunny, or it was just kind of annoying. But here I thought the comedy was also pretty good. Like, I chuckled a couple of times. Like, I have no complaints with it. But yeah, as I said, the characters, they stood out for being like genuinely well developed, to be honest. Another thing that really surprised me, honestly, this is one of the things when I first saw it, like it actually made me really excited. It's that this story has a unique power system. I don't think I've seen like this kind of power system before. So when I first saw it, I was actually surprised, and I was like, what, this type of story has a unique power system? Like, it just shows that the author did put like thinking behind the story. Like, he planned stuff out, like he did do world building and had some unique ideas he wanted to implement. And like, yeah, it just, because I was just surprised, because like, you don't, as I said, you don't go in with high expectations when you get into this genre, and then when you find something that's like actually has thought behind it and actually has, what I'd say, like passion behind it, like I was just surprised. Like, it really made me want to continue. Now, I won't be explaining the power system, as it's not like it's very complex or anything. I just don't want to do it, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, I was blown away, to be honest, that the author had a unique power system in mind. And like, yeah, I mean, for the power system, it's also like, it's different for each witch. There is creativity that can be at play there. It affects their personalities as well. Like, it's just, I don't know what to say. It's just like there was extra thought put into it. Yeah, sorry for the cut. I had something to take care of. So where did I even stop? I think the last thing I discussed was the power system. So yeah, moving on from that, what else did I want to talk about? Yeah, one thing that impressed me with the book is that it's actually like a slow build harem, you know? Most of these other books I read, I mean, once again, just to say, it's not like I am very knowledgeable in this genre. I've read 2 other books, well, 3 other books in total, but 2 other series I've tried out in this genre, and both of them were not slow build harems. Whilst this was a slow build harem, which means that the harem doesn't just happen quickly, like in the 10th chapter or like 3 hours into the book, but like it has a slower progression. Like even at the end of the book, if you think he's gonna have like a large harem by the end of this book, you'll be disappointed. This book the first book did a lot of build up, right? A lot of the members or potential members were introduced, they got characterization, they got some scenes where the characters grew closer, but it's not like they entered the harem. It's not like there was huge romantic revelations by the end of the book, and it's not like there was a lot of fucking to say it that way in this book. And I'ma be honest with you, I'm a huge fan of this approach. I love it when it's slowly developed, the relationship, and then after it's been developed, it always takes a step. It always like it seems more natural, you know, when it keeps taking one step forward until it reaches that point. That's why my favorite harem is Mushoku Tensei's. It's like the only harem I've seen that I think was done very well. Another example which I think was done well, but not to the level of Mushoku Tensei, is Umino Misaki's harem. But most harems, as I said, kind of form quickly, especially in these books. Like at the middle part of the book, you start getting multiple members and multiple sex scenes, everything. But here it felt like everything went slow, and I love that. It feels like it had breathing time. You got to know the characters better, and then when the spicy scene did happen, you were that much more invested and you felt that much more enjoyment out of reading it. Like, I prefer this approach by a lot. Now, even though I really liked the book, not everything about the book was perfect. There were some middle portions that I felt dragged a bit. For example, when he first got to the school, I enjoyed reading, like getting to know all the characters and getting to know the socializing. But once like focused in on like singular classes, I was a bit, like it was a bit dragged out, you know, like I was a bit less invested, I guess. Luckily, the last class that was written like that, like the rituals class, I think that was the strongest chapter there, and that kind of reinvested me into the story. But then there were other portions where I was again like, what are we doing? Like all the Halloween portions of the book, I was like, what are we kind of doing? Like we're kind of just dragging this out. There isn't like plot progression happening, or there isn't like, I don't know. It felt like it had very little significance, I guess, on the story. I feel like I get like it's also trying to be somewhat slice of life, so you need these portions, but I just wish it had more of like an overarching connection to the plot, you know. It felt like it lacked that. Then some of the other side characters which I think are like worth noting or like talking about, who I found interesting, is first of all Felicity. Like at first, like I think it was pretty clear that she wasn't just a normal cat. I'll be honest, I thought she was a familiar, but when the reveal did happen of what she actually was, I wasn't extremely surprised, but I thought it was a nice twist, to be honest. I also think her backstory was very interesting, and even though I think the first book didn't focus that much on her relationship with Noah, I think it's going to be explored in the next books, and I think it's going to be even better. I'm already kind of interested in it, because of course they spent the most time with one another, even though she pretended to be a cat the entire time. I still think when it comes to like knowing him, she's probably knows him the best, and I think there's gonna be some interesting developments there. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Another thing to note about this book is, as I said before, there was a lot of just like not just world building, but like laying the groundwork for future plot points. Like there was a lot of stuff mentioned or slightly focused on in this book, which I think will be larger plot points in the next book, but this is kind of just like foreshadowing for them, and I do like them, but like I hope the author can handle everything, because he put a lot of different plot lines into motion, you know, like Noah being hunted, by the other witch covens if they find out. Then that whole stuff about like the patriarchy hunting witches, which is I think going to be important. Then all the thing with monster or whatever that has like no mana, and then also like the four spirits or whatever that came to Noah in his dreams, like in him having to do all these tasks for them. Like there's just a lot of fucking plot points, and I'm probably forgetting some stuff. There's just a lot of like future plot developments and like plot lines the character set up that I don't know if he will be able to follow through with, but I hope he can, because I am interested in them, and now that he already introduced it, I want to learn more. Also with the other races, like I hope they do come into play at some point, because just mentioning them multiple times during the story, just randomly like that, I feel like there would be a missed opportunity, you know, if they don't come into play. But I think they will, otherwise they wouldn't have been mentioned, but you never know. So all around, to like wrap my thoughts up about this book, I know it's not the deepest book, I know it's not really deep in general. I also know it's like not the best written book, but from this genre, which I want to really enjoy, because as I said, I love harem anime and I love ecchi anime as well. From this genre, which would combine both of them, I want to love some books, and this is the first book where I can genuinely say I actually loved my time with it. I finished it in 2 days. Like I loved this book. Like I loved the characters, I loved a lot of the plot, I loved the romance development and how it came to fruition. I loved huge parts of this book, and I'm hoping the book 2 can keep up with it. Like the quality, either keep the same quality or get even better. That would of course be best. Like if it just keeps on improving as the author improves, that would always be better. However, if it can even maintain this quality, I'd be very happy. And I hope to discover more books of this quality in the genre, because my other 2 attempts, which have been Dungeon Diving 101 and Fostering Faust, I think it's called, have not been that positive. I like Dungeon Diving 101, but I didn't like it to this extent. I just felt like it was fine. Also, I only read the first 2 books, so maybe it gets better later on, but the second book I felt like had a large drop in quality to the first. I thought the first one was way better, but even the first one there I don't think compares to Warlock. So yeah, and Fostering Faust, like I did not like the book. Like I just could not get invested. I don't know why. I've tried thinking about it, but I just couldn't get invested in the story for whatever reason. But this is the first one where I can really say like I am really looking forward to book 2. And yeah, as I was saying earlier, not the best written, not the deepest. However, I loved my time with it. I loved everything I said before, and because of that, even some of the faults of it, I can forgive it. Like, while of course you can if you love the series, but it's not perfect. I hope those things improve, and I hope the stuff that is good also improves and gets better. So yeah, that about wraps up everything I have to say about the book. If you have something else to add, feel free to write it in the comments. I'd love to discuss this stuff with you. And yeah, that's about it. Thanks.